of this. Here we are, folks. We're back for another episode of the Neuro Bros Show with Russ Parker and myself, Karl Sterling. Episode 8 today. Had to take a little break last Thursday just because now that I'm back to a full schedule, it's really busy. So anyways, hey Russ, what's going on, man? And if you're on mute, it's okay. I'll just say, hey, good to see you. Russ is getting ready to share something here, folks, soon. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to introduce Russ more soon. How's it going, Russ?
Going great.
Good. Yeah, it's good to be here and doing this. I've, been trying to every day learn something and spend time, whether it's 10 minutes or 2 hours or whatever, always trying to research and learn more, but not to complicate things, to hopefully simplify things.
Yeah.
If you don't know this about me, I'm really good at overcomplicating things. So I'm working on simplifying things. Leona Brand is here. Hey, how are you, Leona? It's good to see you. Thanks for watching. Laura's here. Good morning, Laura. Laura and I are going to be talking maybe later today. Got to get this education in Spanish because so many people want it and can use it, So yes, good morning, Laura. So we're a little short on time today, and that's because of me. We have to cut right out at 10:50 exactly. And so I thought, do you mind, Russ, if I just share a couple things first and then?
No problem.
All right. Well, as you know, I'm a geek. I'm a nerd. Always like to be learning. Of course, our goal here with this show is to talk about things that can help people with Parkinson's to live a better quality of life, improve movement. Thank you, Leona. Yeah, I feel pretty much better. I'll share more about that in a minute too. But Russ lives with Parkinson's. Laura lives with Parkinson's. I do not. I just study it and want to help people. The stuff that we share really has to do with all humans because we all have nervous systems and a brain. So our goal is to just help people to live a better quality of life, whatever that means. Hopefully thinking better, moving better. I do want to talk about COVID for just a minute. So today I get my first dose of the vaccine, which, I'm excited about. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. However, I think about things before I do them. For anyone who might be a little concerned about any of the vaccines, there's plenty of data, including my son, he's a doctor, MD, PhD, in Emory Hospital in Atlanta. He's a physician at the busiest trauma center in the United States. Right next door is the CDC. Guess what? He has friends who work there. He's gone through and looked at all these things, the COVID virus, the coronavirus, the molecular structure of that, and the vaccines, and it's a good thing to get. So I'm getting it. I say not anti-vaxxer, not because, so I have a lot of brain fog. I'm going to talk about that too in a minute. Is because, I really want to take a social responsibility and I want to protect others, as much as or more probably than I want to protect myself. It's really about others. It ain't about me, it's about we. So that's why I mask up. That's why I follow the rules. And that's why I'm going to get a vaccine. Although, when it comes to medications, I do kind of try to limit what I take. I don't want a pill to fix everything because, there's so much we can do to help ourselves without meds. But as we always say, and I'll make my disclaimer now, we're here not to replace medications or medical care or treatment. We're here to complement it with our education. So that's the deal, because they need us and we need them. Together, we work together. That sounded funny. That was like the Department of Redundancy department. Together, we work together. So I do have COVID brain fog a lot yesterday and today. And I do have a lot of these chills that run inside my body, like shivers. I'm not cold, though. It's just really weird because outside I'm not actually shaking. Although, along with that, I am having a lot of forgetfulness, and I'm not making it up. I'm not trying to live into it. This is actually true. I focus on remembering things, so I have to write everything down. And I also have a significant amount lately of involuntary movements. I don't know what that's all about, but it started early on when I had COVID 3 months ago. So, I'm not complaining. I'm just sharing because I want people to know that while some people just get a sniffle while they have COVID and they're all better after a few days or a week or two, there are the other ones who have other things, and COVID manifests itself in many different ways. So mask up, folks. Russ, man, I got some cool stuff about the brain I want to share with you and
I like the
everyone.
brain. It's my second favorite organ.
Yeah. What's your favorite organ?
It's a private question.
Yeah, okay.
Personal question.
The Hammond B3, right? That's my favorite organ. The Hammond B3 with the bass pedals on the floor.
That's it.
As a drummer, man, nothing better than playing with a really swinging, grooving B3 player. So I have this down into a very succinct delivery. I'm positive of that. Do you know that we have a glymphatic system? I think you probably do.
Yeah, I know more about lymphatic, but yeah, I know we have a glymphatic. It's just tied more to the brain. But go ahead.
Yeah. So the glymphatic system is something that we weren't thought to have had up until as recent as like 10 years ago, when researchers and scientists realized that we do have a glymphatic system. Now it's pretty complicated. It's a very sophisticated system, but just like the lymphatic system, the glymphatic system is the sewage system, but glymphatic would be sewage system of the brain. And it's really interesting. So I want to kind of go through two things here about it as simply as I can put it. I'm going to read my notes, otherwise I'll forget, of course. When we have a traumatic brain injury or we have degeneration in the brain of any type, there are no guarantees for anything, but one thing we know is there is a guarantee our glymphatic system is working no matter what. This helps to clean out some of the waste in the brain. And we want to get rid of that waste because we want to have more, let's say, clear connection and more effective synaptic firing patterns between neurons in these neural pathways that we're working so hard to create through neuroplasticity, because in Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, other thing, or TBI, maybe a stroke, a part of the brain is compromised. So we're taking advantage of neuroplasticity to outsource to another part of the brain to improve whatever it is we're looking at improving. A lot of times it's movement, improving balance, stability, mobility, gait, agility, and reducing fall risk. So we want this training to go we want it to progress as fast as possible and have clear connections between neurons. So the glymphatic system, I mean, especially when we're sleeping, and this is like early sleep. Good news is for those who don't sleep well, and I am the opposite, I sleep too well. Like I always say, if you paid me to sleep, I'd be really wealthy because I'm so good at it, man. I could go to sleep anywhere at any time, pretty much within
Teach
2 minutes.
me. I'm getting better, but
so it's pretty cool because the glymphatic system, really these glial cells, if you will, they're actively repair these connections between neurons when they're damaged. So one thing that'll happen is during the early hours of sleep, or I should say the first 3 to 4 hours of sleep for anybody, that's when that system is most active. So it's a good news. Once you first get to sleep, hopefully you're able to sleep for 3 or 4 hours before waking up, and boom, this thing is doing its thing and it's clearing stuff out, all the crap that comes in and gets, cluttered in there. So it helps to clear it out. Now, one of the ways that we can enhance the effectiveness of the glymphatic system clearing out the brain crud is, I Can you even guess what it might be? Exercise. Again, exercise is good for us. Oh my gosh. And for another reason, right? So 30 to 45 minutes of cardio 3 to 4 times a week is said to, there's not a lot of research on this yet, but there is research, and it shows that in monitoring of brain while people are sleeping, that those who are exercising, once they start exercising, their brain activity and the glial cells and glymphatic system, the process working, is increased because they were doing cardio. How intense? The equivalent of doing something where you're like, I think they call it zone 2. You can still talk and do whatever cardio you're doing. So it's not like HIIT training. You're still able to talk. Maybe it's walking as fast as possible, whatever it is, right? Whatever kind of cardio. So that's pretty cool stuff. And that's also going to help us to allow for more neuroplasticity to occur, because there's less crap in the way. And it's going to, no matter if you exercise or not, it's going to happen anyways at night. It's a very active system. But you want to enhance it, do cardio 30 to 45 minutes a week, zone 2 a week, 3 to 4 times a week, 30 to 45 minutes. That's the research. Let me just go over, I have 2 things I want to share. So I'm just going to do this one for now and then turn it over to Russ. Let's see. So fluid dynamics, like the lymphatic system, lymphatic fluid. Well, there's a glymphatic fluid. So we can also enhance it another way. That is, if you either sleep on a side. I always start out on my right. I don't know why. And then after literally 2 to 3 minutes, boom, I shift to the left. I'm pretty much in the left side sleeping all night. That's me. That's the way I sleep the best. Sleeping on my back rarely does that work. The only time it works is when I elevate my feet, which I might be on a couch or on a park bench. For real, I'm not kidding. So, where it's like too much to be able to sleep on my side if the ground is rough or whatever. But bottom line is, the research says if you sleep on a side, it increases the flow of the glymphatic fluid to go through and circulate more in the brain and clear more of that crap out of there. The next other thing is, if you don't like sleeping on your side, maybe put just a small rise of your feet, a pillow. Put your feet on a pillow. That should be enough to improve the dynamics of the glymphatic fluid flow. And let's see what else we got. That's it for now. I have one other thing to share, but I don't want to do it right now. Let's save it, and maybe we'll do it later or next time. So cool brain stuff. Very cool. Very good, Andrew. Very cool. Very good. It's very good to know this. Okay. Sorry, that I didn't mean that in any bad way, folks. It's just a thing. I was watching too much old Saturday Night Live, I guess. Russ, what's happening in your world? What did you discover lately?
Actually, for myself, I discovered a few things, a few lessons learned. I've been having problems. Well, my hip started hurting about a year ago. My other hip, my right hip had been operated on. That feels great. And the left hip started flaring up. But I had it under control for most of the year. I was even getting to the point where I was doing a lot of fast walking and almost getting back to running. But I had a flare up recently where I was getting those like real sharp pains, and it was hard to even walk, and that was like triggering freezing. And my lesson learned is that always keep track of your go-to activities that you should be doing every day, and make sure that you do them. And I guess I define go-to activities are the things that kind of get you humming, I'll just say, for lack of a better word, and the things that keep you out of pain.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do for my hips, I do some strengthening exercises, step ups, and single leg squats, and band walking side to side to get my abductor muscles, my gluteus medius, which moves your hips out to the side and rotates it outward rotation.
Yeah.
But I was also doing a stretch that I was including a lot was a triangle stretch in yoga, which kind of gets your, there's a muscle called the QL, is the abbreviation for it, quadratus lumborum, which attaches to your hip. And that could be responsible for your hip shifting up. And I also noticed my ribs, my lower ribs seemed like they were kind of close to my pelvis on that side. So I started releasing my QL and then doing that triangle stretch again, and the pain diminished considerably almost the first time I did that stretch. Why I stopped doing it, I don't know. It might have just been combination of that, and I wasn't when the pain started kicking in. I started. I had irritated it and gotten pain, and I also started not doing my strengthening as much too. So it was just a combination of all those things. But now I'm kind of putting it together, and I still have a little bit of pain, but not getting those sharp, pain level 8, 9
Yeah.
level pain, pain. Just every now and then it hurts, affects my walking, and then there's lots of time where I'm down more like pain level, 1, 2, 3, whatever, 1 through 5 or somewhere, but not the real sharp pain. So like the lesson learned is keep track of what you do and keep doing those things that really keep you humming, keep those in your routine. You're gonna have days where you're not gonna do, or you're a full intense exercise routine, but try to stay with those go-to activities at least.
Yeah.
So
good point. I mean, yeah, it's important.
I do keep a journal. Some of my journals though is just mental. I remember like the things I do, but keeping a journal is a good idea too, because you could go back and track, like if you made changes to supplements, medication, then you have issues, you could always add back in something, and then you find out that it was helping, or take something out, or try something again, shift your schedule a little bit. I found something out too, that with all the food sensitivities people get with Parkinson's, sometimes it's difficult to keep in foods you enjoy because they become irritants. So I just found out something recently. Every time I tried having coffee, it was bothering me, and I don't know if it was a combination with the meds, but I found out now if I have a small cup, I could have a small cup of coffee, but very first thing in the morning, even before meds. And probably the reason for that is, I guess when I have it with the meds, a combination of the two doesn't work. But if I have it in the morning, well before my meds, it kicks in on its own, and the meds are worn off from the previous night. So it actually, I think, has a good effect because it gives me a little bit of a jump start before the meds kick in. So if I'm hanging out before my meds, I feel more functional now in the morning. So that was a nice surprise.
What happens when you take the coffee too close to the meds? I'm just curious. And this for anyone out there, this would be individualized for you.
I don't know if it's too close to the meds or just once I'm on into the day where the meds are kicked in. I just feel maybe over jerky, overactive or whatever.
I wonder if it's too much stimuli,
It's overstimulating. I can't really describe it too much. It's not that really dyskinesia. It's just I just don't feel like I have as much control over my movement, I guess.
Interesting. When my son was doing his PhD, and I'm going to tie this into the coffee thing and caffeine and dopamine. Dopamine is the real goal. In case I forget where I'm at here, dopamine is what I want to talk about for just a second. He did a study when he was doing his PhD years ago, and it had all his PhD all has to do with Parkinson's. I don't know the name of his degree in that because it's not pronounceable in my vocabulary, but part of his research involved people with Parkinson's who smoked. And in fact, it's in a book. There's a book about this too, not just smoking, but other stuff. It's called The Molecule of More. I forget the author's name, The Molecule of More. It's like one of the most one of the greatest books I have ever read, because it explains so much about certain of my tendencies towards certain foods and other things. But it also, because it talks so much about dopamine. So people who, I'm going to a disclaimer here. If you have Parkinson's, or if you just anybody out there, don't take up smoking just because of what I say that's coming up. Smoking is more bad for you than the benefits you can get temporarily. However, there's another study that just came out too. I got an email on it today. The dopamine produced by inhaling when you smoke a cigarette in particular, and maybe other stuff, but I don't know. Cigarettes is all I know about. The dopamine created tends to cause a diminished amount of symptoms and improved movement, and they feel better. So what else can do it? Well, if you're stopping smoking, the nicotine replacement patches, those do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying go out and start getting patches or Nicorette gum, although I know that some very well-known scientists, researchers, neuroscientists who chew Nicorette when they want to have hyper focus because they need to get something done. I'm not saying, yeah.
I have some Parkinson's friends who use nicotine. Of course, check with your doctor or whatever. But
absolutely,
patch or gum.
But
and I also had heard that smokers, might have diminished risks of getting Parkinson's. Again, no reason to take up smoking, but yeah.
Well, yeah, so for anyone watching who's not aware, just real quick, the substantia nigra is an area in the midbrain that is usually the first and most affected when somebody's living with Parkinson's, because brain cells are dying. Well, that's a dopamine production center. It's a primal movement center in the brain. So with less dopamine produced, eventually you start to have resting tremor. You might before that have lost a sense of smell and some other kind of stuff. But bottom line is, the more dopamine recreated, usually the less the symptoms prevail because you have more dopamine. Well, you can get it through Cinnamate, levodopa, carbidopa, which is probably the best way medically or intake wise. But yeah, you can get it from caffeine. You can get it from alcohol. You can get it from drugs. You can get it from cigarettes. And you want to do what's the best choice. Now, of all those things mentioned, I'd say, and I'm no doctor, so again, check with your doctor. That might be, though, Russ, that might be why too much dopamine actually can cause anyways, issues, right? Issues and like in effect, like you don't feel quite right. You're not moving quite right. You don't have as much control. But I bet that hit of caffeine first thing before the meds, you're right. And so it's creating dopamine because you can get dopamine created when you do anything you like or intake anything you like. Coffee. Yeah, I love it. I think I'm a dopamine addict, actually.
Yeah, it's
sure.
addictive. I mean, sugar could cause a rush too.
Yes, totally. Food.
A lot of sugar could get you wired. They talk about that sugar high with kids and stuff, but it's really the dopamine that I think is pumping you up.
Yeah, if anyone's really wanting to learn about the extremely well-rounded let's say set of knowledge about dopamine, get the book The Molecule of More. I promise you'll probably be able to relate to it personally, because we all need dopamine or we wouldn't be able to do anything. And then if you have certain tendencies, overeating, over drinking, over drugging, over anything, or then they talk about Mick Jagger, who's been with like 4,000 women. Well, whatever. Not judging. It's just that a lot, like the Howard Hughes thing, Mick Jagger, all these people. Sorry, Mick, we love you. I'm just saying, you're in his book. They talk about him, how they go relationship to relationship to relationship because it's the newness It's the feel of something new. Or with Howard Hughes, it was the Howard Hughes syndrome, where he'd chase a woman, and then as soon as she was like, yes, he's like, okay, well, that conquest is over. I don't even want to do anything with her. I'll move on to the next one. I just wanted to know that I could have her in however I wanted, So, I mean, that's a dopamine thing too. So is
Good
going
timing
to,
on that, by the way. Today's International Women's Day.
yeah,
Happy International Women's Day, all you great ladies out there. There's so many
yeah, absolutely.
pioneers
They
and
should have
wonderful.
International Ladies Month or year, for God's sakes. Yeah, isn't it crazy? Like, remember, well, no, you weren't there. It was Russ and Allison and me. We were in Denver teaching, and I had, unfortunately, this
I
gentleman,
wasn't there.
yeah, this gentleman passed away a year ago this month. Cliff. Cliff was there, and he loved fast cars, and I happened to rent a really smoking Dodge Challenger. So we went out, I took him in my car, and we literally went like 0 to 100 in about 8 seconds. And then I didn't want to get a ticket, so I slowed down. But what a dopamine rush that was. It was so cool. That's a dopamine rush. If you like going 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, you're going to get dopamine, folks.
Yeah, I was in a fast car once on the Long Island Expressway, if anybody knows the New York area.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that it was a dopamine rush. I think it was more nervous laughter because this guy was going way too fast. We went from Long Island into the city in like no time, and he was weaving in and out of cars. This is when I was younger, of course, and stupid for being. I wasn't doing the driving, but stupid for being in that car.
I don't necessarily like going super fast. I like to get up to speed as fast as possible, which I'll only do. Sorry, rental car companies. I'll only do it in a rental car. So I'm not good for rental cars. Oh, well. But the ones I get are usually meant to do something like that. Yeah, it's really interesting. So I've been talking a lot. I get excited about this stuff. That's pretty interesting, Russ, about the coffee.
Yeah, yeah, and that whole issue of what to eat, what not to eat. I'm pretty good. I have pretty good willpower. I mean, there's a lot of people are, these days are into, food even more. There's all these food shows and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So it becomes very difficult because the food becomes, ritual, social ritual, the richness of it, just making stuff that really tastes good. And there's a lot of food, healthy food out there, of course, that tastes good, but there's a lot of unhealthy stuff too. So giving up certain things is hard, but I went through it, and I have to tell you, I lost a lot of my cravings. I pretty much virtually eliminated a lot of added sugar. So it's hard to totally get rid of it unless you have no like packaged goods at all. Like even the bread I eat has like a couple of grams of added sugar. So, but I think most days I have under 5 grams of added sugar, which is very, very low.
That's good. That's really low.
But I've gotten used to it. I lost my cravings. I eat the high cocoa chocolate bars, which if somebody's used to real sweet will taste real bitter, but I'm used to that. Actually, when you don't over spice things, over salt or sugar or whatever, you sometimes just learn to appreciate the taste of the food you're eating or whatever. So I've gotten used to the taste of, less sweetened chocolate. Like if I have a Reese's peanut butter cup now, it'll taste disgusting to me because it's got so much sugar. Like a small piece of dark chocolate only has like a couple of grams of sugar, and then one of those things probably has like
it's a lot
grams or something. It just tastes like I can't even taste the chocolate or peanut butter. I just taste the sugar. It's just like so overwhelming. So you could get you could get used to you adopt some of these healthy habits, and you just get used to it and lose some of your cravings. I don't have any cravings for red meat anymore. I actually added something back in recently. I added lamb because lamb is, if I were to have beef, I would always want like grass fed, and lamb is like pasture raised. So it's just naturally like pasture raised, and seems to agree with me. Okay. I can't really have beef. My digestive system, it like clogs me up.
Oh.
So I can't even have it anyway, but a couple of little lamb chops don't bother me. But I don't have that often. I'm talking like once every few weeks or once a month or
Hmm.
something, but I eat mostly
I've been
vegetables.
thinking of trying salmon again. But my big problem is that I think fish are totally disgusting and gross, and I can't get the image of the fish out of my mind. But that's my own problem, But I can eat a chicken, so what's that? What's that all about? I guess I think chickens are less gross. By the
Yeah.
way, we have Kathy Lowry's with us. Hi, Kathy, on Zoom. If you have
Hey,
any questions, just type them in the chat box. And I meant to say for anyone on Facebook, I'm sorry we have to go early today in like 20 minutes, but chat, put questions in the comments on Facebook. If you have any topics you'd like us to discuss, put them there. Because these shows are going to vary a lot, and it'll vary depending upon what we think of that might be most beneficial to you. I try to share one tidbit or two, like today about glymphatic, just so that we know more about it. It's something that's really cool and it's relevant. And then, if nobody shares anything with us, then we'll just keep doing what we want to do. But I'm sure it'll all be relevant to many people. Well, I got something for you, Russ. Now, this is not rocket science, but when I find research that qualifies or supports something that we do or believe, well, I want to share it with you. So, again, out of Stanford, actually more so out of Harvard, but through Stanford, out of Harvard, kind of a long story. Let's say you had a traumatic brain injury, or you have one side less coordinated than the other, or one side weaker than the other. This whole thing that is rocket science, sort of in the research, the way they word it, becomes really simple when we just succinctly say we want to really concentrate on almost overworking the weaker or less coordinated side. Let's say the more affected side. Maybe it's in Parkinson's, whatever side that is. If your right side is the one with less, microgravia, especially if you're right-handed, right? Well, but it doesn't matter. Anything you would do, you want to really work that right side a lot. Um, let's say it's the left side. You want to work the left side a lot, whatever it is. Whatever side you can control less, you want to take advantage of neuroplasticity
mhm.
and work that side. And because we have what we call neural real estate, you have a certain amount of real estate neuron wise in your brain, and you can get what they call runaway control of the side that is more coordinated or stronger or functions better. That's okay. But meanwhile, if you're not working the other side more than the easier to control side, well, it's going to run away even more and kind of make things more lopsided, probably. So basically, it's like really work on the under coordinated, under controllable, less controllable, weaker side, and work to create the brain patterns through any kind of training you do. You're going to, whether you realize it or not, kind of doesn't matter because your brain will just form new neural firing pathways. And this is actually shown to additionally accelerate central plasticity and recovery of function on that side. How do you like that? I said it in like 2 minutes
That's good.
instead of 20.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
and
trying.
I think that applies more so to neuroplasticity because I guess I'll say because neuroplasticity is a lot more complicated than say like strength training.
Mm-hmm.
Because when somebody has a slightly weaker side on strength training, we don't, as trainers, really normally recommend like overloading the weak side. It's not that important. There's usually tends to be a weaker side. Actually, what I do is like if you're doing two single armed exercises, you do the strong side, and what like say you do for strength exercise, you do you're able to do 12 reps on the strong side. Then you go to the weak side and you can only get to 10. What I do is, I say, don't hold back on the strong side. Do the max on the strong side. And when you get to the 10 on the weak side, take a rest and then do 2 more. And then you're still doing the same amount of work. You're overloading the weak side a little bit because it's harder in general. So you could just that's one way to address it. Because sometimes people with strength training, they overdo it and they start overworking the weak side, and they don't even train the strong side. I wouldn't recommend that. So,
No, I wouldn't either. I
strength training
for
stuff.
strength stuff anyways, for sure.
Yeah.
I think on balance, I do work on my right side more than my left, but maybe to clarify more what I was thinking, and this helps to bring me in though to better focus. Coordination type things, especially.
Yeah.
Really, in fact, one of the things they say is to like make your easier to control side unavailable for use. And be safe about it. Be safe. Don't put yourself at risk of injury or falling or injury, or hurting somebody else. But disable that side somehow. I mean, put it in your pocket, whatever, and use the other side. I mean, that I'm speaking of a hand, obviously, but for feet, just get creative, really work it, especially when it has to do with coordination, which is pretty interesting about how the neuroplasticity can run away on the good side and just take it unless we hold back. It doesn't mean we don't ever do anything with the coordinated side, because we'll stop when we're not training the other side. We're going to use the dominant side or the better side probably.
Mm-hmm.
But just trying to, I gotta
well
back
that ties some of that ties into we said this applies mostly to coordination stuff, but I guess where it does tie in a little bit to strengthening is corrective exercise. So like for instance, if you have foot drop, there might be some coordination and movement type things you could do, but also doing the dorsiflexion strengthening exercises, could help, like foot drop some or whatever, because it could because foot drop is where your foot goes in the other direction. So if you do strengthening in the opposite direction where the foot is dropping,
mm-hmm.
then that it could help. So there's a case there where strengthening on the doing extra strengthening on the affected side would help.
Yeah, sure.
And if we have time, I'll go through that, because we were going to continue with some of the corrective exercise stuff.
You know what?
We started at the calf.
I don't have anything more to share, Russ. Not today. And it's like Brent always says, you don't want to treat an asymmetrical problem with a symmetrical intervention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you wouldn't do equal corrective exercise if one side needs it more than the other. Mm-hmm. You got to bring the other side, the more affected side, more up to even, then go forward. So yeah, go ahead, man. Yeah,
like an example of that is I do band walking, which is I put the band usually around my knees and I walk side to side laterally. Mm-hmm. I do it for a distance. So my stronger, and I push out as hard as I could go. So my stronger side could cover the distance in less steps. So that way, when I go the other direction on the weaker side, I do a little extra work by pushing out getting a few extra movements to that direction. So that's a way of doing that. So we're covering this topic of corrective exercise, and we decided we're going to go from the ground up. We did a little bit of talking, and we'll get back to it periodically, about barefoot and barefoot training and the importance of training and in bare feet. Mm-hmm. But we're in the ankle calf area, and what we covered last time, and I'll review it a little bit, is releasing tightness in the calf, and And then we didn't really cover any strengthening or stretching. And the first thing I want to mention is the importance of dorsiflexion in your ankle. And dorsiflexion is the ability to flex your ankle.
Mm-hmm.
So just want to show what direction flexion is. Put up here. So this is plantar, what's called plantar flexion, which is pushing.
Mm-hmm.
But dorsiflexion, which you want to encourage, is pulling your foot up this way, pulling your toes toward your knee. So there's some exercise you could do to encourage that. And the reason why you want to have good dorsiflexion is because, you know, when you're walking, you need to, as you're stepping forward, you need to get that go heel first and get that toe pointing up. If you can't do that, if I over exaggerate and I just try to walk with my feet extended out like this, I'm going to be compensating
the
for that
penguin walk.
lack of ability of flexing up.
Mm-hmm.
So what it does is every time you do a movement, you sort of have like a wind up in the movement where you're loading up the muscle and then you're taking it into action. So the dorsiflexion, flexion of your ankle, precedes you slapping your foot down and then pushing off. So you need that as well. So that's the importance of it. And one way you could tell, if you have adequate dorsiflexion is if you do a few squat down and your body is leaning forward a lot. It could be because you can't get proper flexion. See, if I get good flexion in my ankles, what should really happen is the angle of my calf area, my lower leg, should really be parallel with my torso. I should be more upright like this. So that means I got good ankle flexion and it can keep me more upright. If I don't have good ankle flexion and I'm squatting down, I make up for it by bending over at the waist. And the way that you could tell it's your ankle is if you squat down and you're bending forward like that, and you get something and you prop, this is just a folded up yoga mat. It could just be an inch or two. You prop your heels off the ground and then you squat and you find you can stay more upright. You've sort of created a compensation and shifted your center of gravity by raising your heels up. And that kind of tells you that if you had better dorsiflexion, you'd be able to stay more upright.
That would be me, man. I've
your
been
lean
working on
forward
this.
is about the same when you do this, and the problem may not be from your ankles. If the problem doesn't go away by raising up like this. So as you say, if you're still leaning forward, then the problem is probably in your hips. Probably bending at hips too much sitting, you have tight hips. So anyway, getting back to the ankle, last time we went over releasing the ankle, and we talk about using different implements, balls and foam roller. So I'll just go over that real quick, and then I want to go over a stretch and a strengthening. So the release that we did is a foam roller. Specifically for the calf, I prefer a smaller object because you're not going to get enough pressure. And what the release is doing is you have something called trigger points or adhesions. So for the muscles to work efficiently, it's just an oversimplified explanation. Sort of all the muscle fibers need to kind of be lined up. There's kind of this gliding of fibers that happens. And just think of it as like an analogy would be like if you had a piece of rope that you had inside a tube and you were pulling the rope through the tube and it was going through nice and easily. Then all of a sudden you put some knots in the rope and then try to drag it through the tube. It wouldn't move so efficiently. So when you release these trigger points, it kind of it kind of frees up the muscles to work a little better. So you just put your leg on top of the roller or whatever object you're using. And if you're using a roller, you might need extra weight, extra pressure added. You have to cross your legs and maybe even lift up with the arms like this. And you move the roller between your ankle, points between your ankle and knee. When you feel some pain or discomfort, then you stop and hold it on the spot until you feel a release. Basically, the release is, you're feeling some discomfort or pain, and then that pain goes away. And that could be anywhere from 30 seconds to like a minute and a half. To enhance this stretch, try to look, can you see my ankle moving? You can move your ankle, flex it back and forth.
Sorry, I didn't respond. I was on mute, but yes,
okay.
I see it. Yep.
So that without moving your calf off of the pressure spot, that kind of moves the muscle through the adhesion and kind of enhances the release. So like I said, I'm going to switch now to like another ball, another implement, which is a ball, which is this is like a few inches, 2 or 3 inches wide. And that gives me more pressure, and I may not even need to cross my legs. And the other thing you could use is you could use a lacrosse ball, which is even smaller. But the problem with the lacrosse ball, I find, is that now you're sometimes, depending on the surface underneath, you might not have enough room. Your heel might be hitting the ground. You might not have enough room to create enough downward pressure. So I put the lacrosse ball on top of like a yoga block, and that kind of gets my leg off the ground, and that creates a lot of pressure as well. And then again, you could do the flexing back and forth. So what we want to do with corrective exercise is also describe to you certain concepts. So the one I'm going to talk about right now is reciprocal inhibition. So, and then I'll just quickly use an example in another muscle in the calf. So what happens is...
So Russ, I'm interrupting just 1 second.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to go in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
Very, very, very sorry. But it's all
yours. Right. I didn't realize we were at this time already. That's right. We had cut it. Okay.
It's all yours. So
I'll cover this concept, and then
cool.
And then I could show the activation next time.
Excellent.
So reciprocal inhibition is basically when a muscle on one side gets over tight, and there's the muscle on the opposite side. It can't use it. It doesn't have as much strength because muscle relaxes on one side and tightens on the other side usually. So if your calf has a tendency to tighten up, the muscle, which is called the anterior tibialis, the one that does that dorsiflexion where you flex your ankle towards your toes, that one becomes inhibited. So by releasing and stretching the calf, then you'll actually be able to enable dorsiflexion more, even before doing strengthening. So another example of that is your hip and your glutes. Sometimes when your hips are over tight, for a lot of people who do a lot of sitting, that happens to them. They have trouble doing hip extension, and if you just by stretching the hips, sometimes even without doing the strengthening in the glutes, it'll enhance your strength. So it's an interesting concept. I was introduced to that with running. I had very over tight hips, and I stretched them a lot. I was working on stretching and releasing them a lot, and I hadn't done much strengthening. But I went to a track workout once after I had successfully done a good job of stretching and releasing my hip flexors. And after the track workout, my buttocks, my glutes were like on fire because I had released that inhibition that was being caused by the opposite side. So that's interesting. So we'll continue with the calf next time. I could show a stretch, and we don't have time for it now, I guess. But I'll show the stretch, and then I'll show strengthening, how to do strengthening of dorsiflexion, several ways to do that.
That sounds good. Yeah, and so Kathy, by the way, says she found the book Kindle. Actually, so yes, I just found the Kindle version on Amazon for $9.99, Kathy. And then the paperback was $12.99 for the molecule more, by the way. But I'm an audiobook guy because I really have trouble reading and remembering anything, even though I'm working on it. So I have the audiobook of it, which I love because I can really retain it and take notes when I go through the second time. I usually listen to an entire book first, and then the second and third, fourth time through, I pause, write notes. Sometimes I buy the book to go with the, and I'll highlight stuff in the actual hard copy. Um, yeah, so we're back on Thursday this week, right? I'm good for
Yeah,
Thursday.
I'm good.
Last
And maybe we
Thursday,
could start with that calf stuff. This way it'd be contiguous from
yeah,
the end of this one to the beginning.
let's do that. I'll probably have more stuff to share, but I think what I'll do is save it for the end because it's more important to go through these things that we can, apply now, and then I'll interject here and there maybe. But so Thursday we will continue, folks, with corrective exercise that Russ will show you. And again, if you can inbox me on Facebook, you can inbox Russ. Tell us if there's anything you want to learn about. We're happy to take people's ideas and then share what we know about whatever that might be helpful. Hey, Russ, thanks. But sorry I have to go early today. It's just one of those days. Thursday, I don't have to go early. But thanks, man.
Share with everyone, and thanks to everyone who joined.
Yeah, thank you,
See you
Kathy.
Thursday.
Thank you, everyone. We got a few people on Facebook. We got Laura, Andrew, Leona, Claire. Claire. Wait a minute, Claire. I think I know Claire from
I owe Laura, I owe you a salsa class, you and your friends over there in Mexico. Give me an opportunity to practice some Spanish too.
And if I'm correct, if Claire's still watching, are you in Ireland? Am I thinking of Claire O'Brien in Ireland? I'm just
No.
curious. No, is that a friend of yours?
She's a friend of mine, yeah. Local
Okay.
here on Long Island.
Oh, okay. Well, hi, Claire. Nice to meet you. I know a Claire in Ireland who I met when I taught in Ireland a couple of years ago. All right. All right, folks. I gotta head out. Got something happening at 11. So thank you, Russ. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back 10 a.m. Eastern Time Thursday this week. 8, 9, 10, 11th, March 11th. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks, Russ.
Adios.
Bye-bye.